Elizabeth funeral, Hurricane Fiona weather, sports, passenger plane etiquette.
Yeah, and I wrote this. Queen Elizabeth II's hearse
Where'd you
has
write that?
arrived at Windsor Castle, where a service is now taking place at St. George's Chapel. And then we can go into life.
Straight up at 11, y'all, so we got a minute and a half.
Okay. I'm like,
Mic check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 10.
mic check 1 2 3.
Three, two, one.
Morning, welcome to KSAT News Now on a Monday. We are coming to you on all our KSAT streaming services. Coming up, we're going to recap Queen Elizabeth III's funeral that looks like it's just about ready to wrap up. At least they're ready to go to the private ceremony there for the burial.
A very emotional morning for everyone. We've been following this since very early on, and we're also going to be following up with Hurricane Fiona. We're going to keep up with the local weather here in San Antonio.
We're going to talk a little sports. It was a big day for the Cowboys, a big day for a former San Antonio Spur assistant coach. We'll let you guess who we're talking about, and we'll let you guess what she did.
And we're also going to be talking about passenger plane etiquette. You know, you've been taking trips here and there. Now, what bugs you? There's a survey, and it tells you all about it.
Apparently, there's several things that bug us. There's some loud noises in the newsroom too, but that's okay. So let's begin with Queen Elizabeth. It looks as if the public service, the service that is being televised, is just about wrapped up, and they're ready to go to the private ceremony there on the grounds of Windsor Castle. They have just wrapped up the funeral service there on the grounds of Windsor Castle in St. George's Cathedral, but it's been a very, very long and, as you said, emotional morning starting in London.
A lot of people involved. Members of the royal family were in attendance, including the Queen's 4 children, her 8 grandchildren, and their spouses. And then there were a lot of other people that are important to this community, 500 heads of state, dignitaries from around the world, a lot of people coming together for this.
A lot of people attended that funeral that took place at Westminster Abbey this morning in downtown London. You can see the Queen being her body inside the coffin that is adorned with the crown that she wore and all the roses. You can see the pallbearers carrying that crown, carrying the funeral. The casket outside of Westminster Abbey headed over to Windsor, and this took a very long time. They took their time. There was thousands and thousands of people lining the streets of downtown London. There were thousands of people lining the streets, entire route that they took to get to Windsor Castle and St. George's Cathedral.
The Queen's coffin is draped with royal standard, the flag representing the sovereign and the UK. And also on top of the coffin, a velvet cushion, lies the imperial state crown, as you mentioned. And then we do have several other details within that.
Yeah, before the funeral actually started, there were a bell tolled 96 times, once for every minute of the Queen's life, and then 142 Royal Navy sailors used ropes to draw the gun carriage carrying her flag draped coffin to Westminster Abbey before those pallbearers bore it inside the church. So the pomp and circumstance that Great Britain is known for, we saw it unfold today before our very eyes as they said goodbye to Queen Elizabeth III.
And as you can see, tens of thousands of people lining the streets, everyone just getting a chance to see the Queen.
It took about an hour for them to get from London all the way to Windsor Castle and St. George's Cathedral, where once again it looks as if they have just wrapped up that funeral. And there you can see the Navy sailors pulling the casket with that rope. Interesting day. Very emotional for a lot of folks in London. We know that President Biden and Dr. Jill Biden attended that funeral this morning, and they are apparently back on a plane headed back to the U.S. as the private ceremony is now taking place there on the grounds of Windsor Castle, St. George's Cathedral, where she will be buried next to Prince William, her husband, who died last year at 99. So they will be buried next to each other.
A very emotional, sentimental, and very special moment right now that's going to be taking place. And we're going to have all those details on KSAT.com.
Yeah, and we'll have a complete wrap-up for you just in a little while on KSAT 12 News at noon. Now let's get to a pretty disastrous weekend, actually, for Puerto Rico. The Hurricane Fiona has made landfall in the Dominican Republic, already unleashed landslides in Puerto Rico yesterday, knocked out the entire power grid. No power, no lights last night on that island of Puerto Rico.
According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, Fiona hit with maximum sustained winds of 85 miles per hour. Forecasters had said the storm would cause catastrophic flooding and threatened to dump historic levels of rain, with up to 25 inches possible in some areas. You
could see just the power of that water right there, taking out a bridge, completely wiping that bridge out, taking out a lot of those utility poles with it, damaging houses and businesses all over that island, ripping up trees. Remember, this is just, about a year ago that they had or a couple of years ago, Justin, that they had the other storm that wiped through there. A lot of death and destruction on that one. So this is another rough day for Puerto Rico. And I know that President Biden has also declared a state of emergency for that area down there. So
all eyes are over there right now. And I know that there's going to be a lot of assistance in the upcoming days, and we're going to continue following this.
Yeah, and at one point Puerto Rico the whole island was completely without power, and you think about the infrastructure there and the flooding, the mudslides, it's a bad situation, and they've still got rain coming down at this hour, guys. So let me show you the big picture here. This is obviously the United States. Everything's pretty quiet here, but let me take you down to the Caribbean, and there we have Fiona right there, and you can see the eye is just past the Dominican Republic, so it is now re-emerging back out over the waters, the warm waters, and we think this thing's going to strengthen a little bit. But look at the rain bands. They're still over Puerto Rico, and so they're still getting heavy rain there, and the island's going to probably pick up a little bit more before it's all said and done. This will pick up some forward speed and start to move north, which helps, gets it out of the way, but as it strengthens, places like the Bahamas, the islands there are going to start to feel some of this. So let's get the latest stats. Actually, let's go back here and get you the latest stats on Fiona. And right now, winds are at 85 miles per hour, gusting to 105. Still a Category 1 storm, but it probably will strengthen a little bit. And it's moving northwest at about 8 miles per hour. So there it passes right by the Bahamas. This is Tuesday, 110 miles per hour. It's a Category 2 storm. So that's the next landmass it will affect. And then we think it curves north. So places like Bermuda, which is kind of out in the open ocean, but unfortunately is probably going to feel some effects from this. Category 3 storm as it nears Bermuda. It winds 120 miles per hour. It's not until probably the end of the work week that we see this move into colder waters and finally really dissipate. The East Coast doesn't take a direct hit from this, but they'll likely see waves and lots of surf kicking up from this hurricane, guys.
I guess that's the good news of this hurricane. It's not going to hit the East Coast. It's going to turn and go north. Huh?
It's true, and yeah, it's good news for the East Coast. Obviously, Puerto Rico, still in bad shape.
And it seems like it's stayed on top, and that's dangerous for many reasons when it just lingers and keeps raining.
True, and you guys mentioned the previous hurricane, which Puerto Rico is still sort of recovering from that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So the infrastructure isn't quite there, and when you get these kind of storms, even if it's a Category 1, you're still going to have a lot of damage.
And that radar where you showed it was still sitting over the island. That looks
Yeah. Dominican Republic taking almost a direct hit there too.
what, 30 inches of rain possible.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
A lot of
And the
rain
hurricane
coming out.
season's been pretty quiet, but it shows all you need is one
Yeah.
to do something that can be pretty
Was there
disastrous.
anything else out there coming off the coast of Africa that you
Nothing
saw?
that jumps off the page. That's
No.
kind of the big story out there, Fiona. We do have some action out in the Pacific, but nothing that's too terrible.
Nice.
We're going to switch over to our trivia question, guys.
Okay.
And so with Queen Elizabeth, everything going on today, we wanted to ask a question here regarding that. So which of these events in Great Britain created one of the worst weather disasters during Queen Elizabeth's II's reign? Was it a hurricane, an ice storm, smog, or tornado? What do you think? If you watch The Crown, you know the answer to this.
I did
Oh, I don't watch the
You don't
Crown,
watch The Crown.
so I don't know. So
Okay.
I don't know the. I'm going with smog though,
Okay,
because it's London.
true. What do you think, Tiffany?
Take a guess.
Okay, I'll say C as well.
Phone
Okay.
a friend.
You guys are correct. So
See?
hurricanes, they don't really make
hurricane.
their way. Every now and then you'll see a weakening hurricane make its way towards the British Isles. And ice storm, they see some snow, not necessarily big ice storms, and they very rarely see tornadoes. So yeah, it's smog. This was back in 1952, London's Great Smog Event. It was caused by an inversion, which basically locks in the air there at the surface, and it remained that way for 5 days. It led to the premature death of nearly 4,000 people
4,000 people?
over time because the smog, people were breathing that in. It all got locked in over the city of London, and it was a fog mixed with a ton of pollution, and over time resulted
Wow.
in unfortunately, cancer and stuff like that. So it prompted the Clean Air Act in Britain. They kind of changed their ways after this, but this was during Queen Elizabeth's reign, obviously, in 1952. It was a big event in UK.
Wow.
So there you go.
There you go. The weather event.
Pretty interesting.
Right.
Now to some records here in San Antonio, and not great records. We are now back on top when you're talking year-to-date rainfall. If you take this date and look back in time, since we've been keeping records since 1886, this is the driest year-to-date amount of rain we've ever seen. So we're at 8.20. You go back in 1917 at this point, we were at 8.23, 1925 at 8.3. We averaged 23.25 this time of year, just to give you some perspective. So we are extremely dry. We thought August was turning us around, right? We got the rain, it was looking good, and then boom, the rain shuts off again, and here we are back in that situation where we're dealing with some pretty extreme drought. There is a look at some of the showers there along the Texas coast. We have a few this morning. None of these that make their way up to San Antonio, though, I think. And as we look a little closer here at Bexar County, we've got some clouds at this hour. 84 Helotes, 85 Randolph, 86 at Stinson. Temperatures today, 95, but it'll feel like 100 when you factor in the humidity. Humidity is still there and will continue through the afternoon. 95 is the forecast high, 93 Canyon Lake, 95 in New Braunfels, 94 in Seguin. And very quickly, as we look at the upper level pattern here, the reason for all that heat, big blue H, that ridge high pressure, sits over top of us through the end of the work week. And I think Thursday and Friday is when we can see some of our hottest temperatures before that thing finally moves out of the way. And could we see a front early next week? Models are hinting at it. That would be a great thing. It would cool us down some. But in the meantime, it is all heat all the way. 95 Tuesday, 97 Wednesday. We officially go into fall on Thursday. Thursday and Friday could be some of our hottest days. Could we hit 100? It's possible. It's possible.
You said people in the community want that to happen. Some
Well,
locals
if
are wanting that.
I guess we could get that record and then get it out of the way and just be
Okay.
done with it.
So here, I got a situation for you. See if anybody else has this.
Okay.
So I know it's getting drier because there's a deadbolt on one of my doors. It gets harder to turn the drier it gets. So like when we had all that rain, it was
Yeah.
like real easy to set the deadbolt. Now it's getting harder to turn because we haven't had any rain in a while.
That is a very specific example.
Is that weird or what?
I've never heard of that, but
Okay.
you know.
You never heard that? Nobody else? You never
No.
had that problem with your deadbolt? What are you doing?
But I am trying to figure out why that would be.
I have no idea. But when we got all that rain back in August,
Yeah.
man, that thing shut like nobody's business.
David's deadbolt forecast.
Yes.
There you go.
We can rely on it.
Speaking of deadbolts, you know, the Cowboys could have been dead if they'd had won yesterday. Wow. That's what they all say because, you know, if you're 0-2, you're not going to make the playoffs. That's what they said throughout the game yesterday. But
Right.
the Cowboys came up with a big win yesterday, just in case you didn't notice that, 20-17 over the Cincinnati Bengals. However, not as good for the Texans.
No.
There you go. You can do this one.
The Houston Texans, 9. Denver Broncos, 16. That's my forecast
you
right
go.
there. My sports forecast.
And congratulations to Becky Hammond. She won the WNBA championship. Her team did yesterday. So she is now a WNBA championship coach. So is
That's
that
impressive.
the future of San Antonio?
Sure
She's
feels like it,
done
right?
what she had to do. She went off and won a
I mean,
championship.
and Pop was there for one of
Yeah.
the speeches, right?
Yeah, he went into the locker room and gave him a little pep talk when they got ready to go on. After they were up 2-0 at home, they got ready to go on the road,
Yeah.
and he went in and talked to him about being on the road. Hardest game to win is a road game in the NBA Finals.
That's really
Yeah.
special.
So there you go. So, and now if you are flying, you going flying anywhere? Flying anywhere?
Not anytime soon.
But we have flown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Not
we
anytime
know.
soon? So there's a survey out there.
Yeah.
And the survey was taken by passengers, and they asked these passengers certain questions, like, what really bugs you when you get on a plane? And you're going to find it very interesting.
Yeah, most annoying and rude behaviors by fellow passengers when they're flying. So here's what they found. Rear seat kickers and disruptive drunks are tied for being America's most annoying co-passengers, with the same percentage, 59% of Americans saying those activities annoy them.
So usually at the rear seat kicker is a child.
I will apologize in advance for my children.
Did your kids kick the rear seat?
They
That's
have, and I've apologized to the person in front of me.
And you know, take a shower before you get on the plane. That was another one. And don't eat just nasty smelling food either,
Yeah.
because that just really drives people crazy. Apparently.
Agreed.
Don't, so,
Agreed.
So, but
And don't lean back.
and don't lean back.
Well, we're gonna have.
Take a shower.
They're gonna have a lot more on the noon show, right, David?
Yeah. This is an interesting survey. I thought it'd be something different than this, but anyway, yeah, we got a lot more coming up on the news show in just about 45 minutes from now. So join us then.
Thanks
and
for
we'll see you
watching.
again tomorrow. KSAT News Now.